I don't recall exactly how I learned that the war had begun. As I recall vaguely, I was watching either the BBC or CNN International and saw the report. But I wasn't surprised at all. I had been anticipating well, since the clashes along the Azerbaijan-Armenia international border in July of 2020 that the situation had shifted dramatically, and that, as I mentioned before, the Minsk group was not really getting involved in the way it had in the past. Russia and Turkey had filled a diplomatic vacuum, and then I just knew from my contacts that military preparations were beginning on both sides, and troops and military equipment were moving toward the line of contact. And I always thought through all my years working on the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict that we would know that a resumption of war was possible only when the two sides started moving soldiers and equipment toward the line of contact. For all the years I worked on Nagorno-Karabakh, there are always all sorts of frightened people in Europe and the United States saying, "Oh my God, we're worried there's going to be a war and the two sides are going to stumble into a conflict." I was always saying, no way. It takes a lot of effort to get militaries positioned for there actually to be a war, and until late July and August of 2020, there were no such movements that were evident. But once they began, I expected the war to happen, and I based on my experience as the U.S. co-chair and knowing the intricacies of the agreement nearly finalized back in early 2000 or in 2009, the so-called Madrid Principles, which, by the way, both President Aliyev and then President of Armenia, Sarg Sarkisian, said they could accept in principle, as long as some important details could be agreed later. So knowing what was preliminarily agreed, that led me to believe that President Aliyev's aims, or Azerbaijan's aims in the war, would be limited and would aim to strengthen Azerbaijan's negotiating position, because at the end of the day, war is not about military violence. War is about politics. It's the continuation of politics by other means, as the great Prussian theorist von Clausewitz taught us. And so I strongly believe that the Azerbaijani side was going to use military force as a diplomatic tool, because military force is a potent diplomatic tool, and it was going to do that to strengthen its negotiating position within the Minsk group. And what I anticipated happening was maybe Azerbaijan would regain Fuzuli, maybe Agdam was too heavily fortified, but maybe some of the areas around Fuzuli, Hadrut, and then stop there and negotiate from a position of strength. What I did not anticipate was that military breakthrough on the Sunday, I guess a week and a half or so into the actual conflict, when the combination of the amazing integration of Turkish and Israeli drones and Turkish tactics of integrating those drone strikes with combined arms operations, that led to that huge, dramatic military breakthrough in the flatlands along the border of Azerbaijan and Iran. And when that happened, and after Hadrut had been captured, then it was absolutely clear to me what was going to happen. It was obvious that Azerbaijan was going to work its way towards Shusha, both from the south, and then I didn't know for sure, but I had, in my conversations with my military analyst friends in Washington, I was saying, look at the valley between Hadrut and Shusha. It's rough going. There's Krasny Bazar, I think, is one of the villages in there. But it seemed to me there would be a special forces operation that went in that direction, and sure enough, it happened. So I didn't expect all of that to happen at the beginning, as I was saying. I thought Azerbaijan's war aims would be more limited, but Azerbaijan enjoyed such rapid and, I think, unexpected success. I think even the top leadership of Azerbaijan didn't expect that its tactics and technologies would inflict such devastating damage on basically Russian weaponry that the Armenian force had. I mean, Azerbaijan used these tactics and drone strikes to destroy the air defense systems of Armenia, so many of its tanks, other armor, and really there was little left for the Armenian troops to do but retreat as they did, really, in many cases, out of control and just fled the battlefield. So once that we started to see reports of that, it was clear that Azerbaijan was going to push towards Shusha. What I was really hoping was that Azerbaijan would stop at Shusha, which it did. Why that? I wish that because it's clear from a military perspective, once Azerbaijan captures Shusha, the war is over. There's no way any serious resistance can be mounted against Shusha by an Armenian military that's been destroyed. Once Azerbaijan controls those commanding heights, it controls Hankendi, Stepanakert if you're Armenian, and also the moral and psychological boost that Azerbaijan received from regaining Shusha really was deeply meaningful. I also think it was a wise decision because it saved so many lives, thousands of lives, probably military lives on both the Armenian and Azerbaijani sides, and civilian lives as well. And so this ended up being probably the greatest military victory, leading to the greatest diplomatic victory in Azerbaijan's history.